Good morning, Scott. How are you, sir?
It's good to be on the Perez notes. You're back.
Yeah, yes. Interesting time, it's as I reflect and I think about all the time that's gone by, we're talking 2012, more than a decade ago, a whole lot of new technology, new players, new people, new terms, right? New social media. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but I'm looking forward to it. And I just want to first start by thanking you because once upon a time I had a platform which increased the likelihood of people wanting to be a part of it and people wanting to talk to me. And you know how this business goes. I don't have to tell you, you've been around a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Success has many fathers, failure is an orphan, whether you consider this to be failure or not. But, it's not the likelihood. I don't have the base I once did. But, we'll get there. We'll get there, right? If you build it, they will come.
And listen, I was an original listener to you over 10 years ago, and you were really ahead of your time. Now everyone has a podcast, and it's become part of the political dynamic. But you can't mess with the original, right? And you're an original.
That's right. So let's start. When we met, you were when we last talked or had a conversation. You were the Manhattan Borough President.
Right.
You went on to be City Comptroller. You went on to run for mayor, and now you're running for mayor again. But I want to start, Scott, with why did Trump win? Let's start there. Why did Trump win? Why did Trump get reelected for the second time?
Look, I don't think there's any easy analysis. I think everyone should sort of take a deep breath and sort of figure out why he won, and at the same time start thinking about how we build. Because sometimes someone wins because you haven't been able to deliver the right message. So I think there's a lot of that's not in our control as New York City Democrats, but there's also a lot that's in our control. And governing well and making sure that we go back to our roots, which is fighting for working people, I think will be very, very critical. Because in New York City, while we are blue, and make no mistake, we are a blue city and we're going to continue to be, part of what we've got to recognize is what we do as a city does impact the rest of the United States. And so best way for us to showcase what has to happen for America is to do it well right here in New York City.
Now let's talk a little bit about Somos, the Somos Conference. What are the takeaways for you? What was the sense? What was the mood? Separate from your race, right? That you're running for mayor, right? You've declared. Officially now?
Not
Is
officially.
it not officially yet?
That's
Okay.
coming.
Okay, that's
I
coming
hope,
soon.
right?
But what was? Let's first start. What was the mood?
Well, it wasn't celebratory. It was, I think people who, fight for working people who fight for immigrants, people who fight to help people in need. I think we're really concerned going into the new Trump administration. And I think we were hoping that Hakeem Jeffries would be Speaker, Harris would be President. That dream was not realized. So I think there's a lot of soul searching. But also it was very comforting to be with like-minded people. I've always enjoyed the Somos Conference for a number of reasons. One, it is a very substantive conference. There's a lot of people talking about a lot of critical issues. That comes out in Somos every year. And then there is the networking that shouldn't be underestimated because that's how you build relationships to take back to New York City. On a personal level for me, my stepfather, Carlos Cuevas, who, by the way, was at one point the highest ranking Puerto Rican appointed official as Deputy Borough President of the Bronx back in the day and as city clerk. I got to see him and the family, my Puerto Rican side of the family, my 97-year-old stepfather. So it was a reunion of sorts for a side of my family who we really hadn't spent a lot of time together since my mom passed during COVID. So for me, it was a lot of mixed emotions. It was, being able to go back and spend time with Carlos, but also to be part of the conversation about how we rebuild the Democratic Party. and remembering that the Latino community, the Puerto Rican community, is so critical to the hopes and dreams of New York City, and we shouldn't underestimate that. And Somos is a great reminder of how important the Latino community is in the city.
Scott, how do you think the outcome of the election, the national election, impacts the mayoral race?
I've said from the beginning that people very much want for this city to go do some really important big things. And what do people care about? They care about public safety. They care about making sure that kids like mine can ride the subway safely. They do not appreciate the lack of quality of life that's been lost under this mayor. And people want to be able to stay here. But if the entrance fee to this city is a $2 million condo, then only the wealthiest people are going to be able to come here and live here. And I worry about the middle class not being able to stay in the city that they love. That's not good for business. That's not good for our people. And I think we need a mayor who's going to actualize real results. Talk is cheap. You can advocate for free this and free that and, touch all the popular issues. But if you don't have the experience to get things done, and we've seen that with this mayor, then our big dreams are not going to be realized. So what I bring to the table is 30 years of real experience, 30 years in dealing in Albany as an assembly member. You mentioned my work as borough president, where we really did a lot of land use and zoning and affordable housing. As controller, we took that office and shaped it in ways that has served as a platform for holding government accountable. So I'm very proud of my record. I want to use that experience to become mayor and rebuild this government. And let me just say, the corruption, the crime scene at City Hall, we cannot normalize that. The big discussion now can be, is he going to get a pardon? That's just incredible to me. The big discussion is, how do we take the city of Yes and build upon it in a real way? How do we build affordable housing like Mitchell-Lama 2 and understand that we need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of affordable housing units? How come we don't talk about low-income housing as suddenly that's become a dirty word? And I have plans to take all of these issues and make sure that we actually actualize results in the next 4 years. And there's nobody who has the experience, the temperament, the maturity to lead this city in a post-Adams era.
Scott, can someone be mayor currently with the outcome of the national election, the presidential, with the label progressive?
Look, I don't think we're going to elect a socialist mayor for a lot of reasons. But look, I think the word progressive has been polluted and diluted. And that's unfortunate because, I've always said everybody is progressive if you believe that the job of government is to help the people most in need. Most New Yorkers know that when you see somebody on the subway with serious mental illness, it's not about arresting them. It's about giving them the service that they desperately need so they don't lose their lives. I think that's progressive. I think helping people stay safe in this city, that's progressive. But you'd never know it from the word salad that we use. So I'm not going to pick a word to describe my campaign, except I'm going to govern through competence, through lifting all boats, and actually getting big things done. But I think this word game, the socialist game, I don't think that's where New York is right now. I think they want a mayor just to get things done. Affordable housing, safe streets, mental health initiatives, helping our kids in the public schools. They have not been helped post-COVID. We need more intervention for a lot of kids who are vulnerable. And for God's sakes, we've got to help the homeless by providing real affordable housing and supportive housing. Turn me loose as mayor for 4 years, I will get this done.
Scott, former Governor Cuomo changes residency. What does it mean if he runs for mayor again with the shift? People feel like the city's moving more towards the right, towards more of a moderate line. What does that mean in terms of the race? How do you prepare? You have to prepare, right? Let's say conceivably he runs. He decides he wants to run for mayor.
If he runs, he'll lose, I believe.
Despite what the polling is.
This polling is it's like fantasy football. You know, you always think that the player in fantasy football is going to give you all the points, and that player breaks his leg, and that's the end of your fantasy football team. I think Cuomo has. I don't think there's a lane for Cuomo. You know, I give him respect, former governor. But if you remember, I was the one who beat another former governor, another former attorney general when I was 20 points behind. So the Cuomo candidacy, you know, doesn't move me one way or another. And again, look, at the end of the day, he's going to have to make a case, like all of us, who is the best to govern this city in tough times. And I would tell you that, with all due respect, I mean, my mom died of COVID, but, you know, 15,000 people lost their lives because of poor government decisions by the governor, and then he wrote a best-selling book about it. I mean, it's incredible that this is this is the candidate that comes forward. I'm not sure he wins at the end.
Interesting. Scott, what are the lessons that you've learned this time around, right, as you prepare to declare that you're running again for mayor, from the last time you ran to this time, right? What are some of the differences, and what are the sort of changes you've made, or some of the lessons you've learned?
Well, I think that's a very good question to ask candidates who've run races over the years. So I've always, you know, I've won some big upsets, right? I beat Elliot Spitzer when I was 20 points behind. When I ran for borough president, I was not likely to win that race, and we were able to be successful, even going back to my first assembly race. So I've won some very tough races, but I've lost a few along the way. And you never learn from the ones you win. You really learn from the ones you lose. And I think that you kind of have to meet the voters where they are. And I'm not sure I was able to do that in the last campaign. And I think the voters are looking for somebody who matches my abilities, matches my thinking, my judgment, but also my record. And so what I have to do is shrug off the last campaign, because people lose, right? And focus on the problems of the city, not 4 years ago, but where we are today. And let me remind people, Ed Koch lost for mayor in 1977. That's 1973, before he won an upset victory in 1977. Mario Cuomo, one of our great governors, scored an upset victory over Ed Koch. He was 20 points, 30 points behind. Andrew Yang was Mayor Yang 4 years ago at this time. He finished fourth. So I think you got to throw the polls out the window. You got to stop prognosticating on data that is not accurate. And then it's really up to the candidates to make a case. And I'm very fresh. I've been, you know, I've been thinking about this for a couple of years, and I'm ready to go at it again in a much more focused and meaningful way. And look, I've got skin in the game. I'm at the point in my life where I'm raising 2 little kids. They're not little anymore. Voters got to know them 4 years ago. They're middle schoolers. I worry about their education. I worry about their future. I worry about their safety. I am not going to sit on the sidelines while incompetence, gross corruption has taken over this city. I have an obligation, given my record of 30 years, to be part of this debate, part of this mayoral election, so that we can see if we can change the direction of the city. And then we'll let the voters decide.
Scott, I want you to say one thing about each of the folks that are currently exploring or running for mayor. One word. Brad Lander.
Friend, respect.
Jessica Ramos.
Respect.
Zora Mamdani.
Respect. I mean, look, let me say this. Those questions, we're going to have our disagreements. You know, obviously, I think, you know, I would do a better job.
Jamani Williams.
Respect. I was one of Jamani's earliest supporters when he ran for city council. We worked together on stop and frisk and other issues. By the way, I think he's the most likely to be mayor out of all of us. As I said at a forum in the Bronx, you know, he will be the mayor in a special election. He's got to hold it. That's a transition that I hope will go well for the sake of the city if it comes to pass. But look, it's not so much running against other people. It's who you are. It's your record. It's your vision. That's what I'm focused on. And just because you are friends with candidates, you have a long-standing relationship with them, you're allowed to run against them. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're going to be bitter enemies. You know, I've known Eric Adams for for decades. I don't consider him the enemy. I just don't think he should be mayor, but that doesn't mean we Democrats can't run against each other in respect.
Parting words, what do you want to say that I may not have asked you that you want to sort of add to the conversation? Anything?
Look, I believe in the city. I think this is the greatest town, the center of the universe. Government should start acting like it. I want to build real affordable housing. I want to build housing for people who want to make it in the city, the young people who can't survive paycheck to paycheck. The rent is too damn high. But how do we actually build the hundreds of thousands of affordable housing units we need? I have a serious plan to do that. I have the skills to get money and help from Albany and understand the chess game that we're going to have to play with a hostile Trump administration. I think we need somebody who's grounded. And you know what the secret sauce, and you know this in your time in government, the secret sauce of being a mayor is how do you attract the best and brightest people into government? The people who are there for the right reasons, the people who are there because they want to make a difference. And the one thing people would say about me, and this is true for the last 30 years, man, that guy hires well. He brings the best people to whatever office he'd had, starting in the assembly, as borough president, and certainly as controller, where we were able to divest $4 billion in fossil fuels. We were able to consolidate the pension fund, 9% return. Our audits and investigations were so tough on the de Blasio administration. We haven't seen that accountability since I left office, and that prepares me to be the person who others will try to hold accountable.
Question, last one.
Yeah.
Day one, what will be your first action as mayor if you were to win conceivably?
People always ask, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Correct.
Besides waking up. And
yes.
The first thing we're going to do is move to realize the promises I made. We are going to begin a real housing agenda. We're going to make sure that we have reformed the police department by putting people in place where people feel that the city is safe again. And we're going to also begin the process of having the greatest mental health initiative that I can muster. Those are some of the things we would do in the first 100 days. But I'm also going to bring a government in that is going to have capacity, because that's what it's all about. Do you have capacity to realize the big dreams? Do you have capacity to clean up the streets? Do you have capacity to pick up the garbage? Do you have capacity to make people feel that their neighborhoods are livable? And the way you do that is by putting commissioners and people in place who are most qualified. One of the things that we're watching in the Trump administration is just how unqualified and how mismatched some of his appointees have been in the first week. And, that just doesn't bode well. Put the president-elect aside. The people who he's appointing are not in it for the right reasons, and that has been Eric Adams' biggest failure. He put together a crowd of folks that were interested in gaming the system rather than working for the people, and that, I think, has to change.
All right, two more, I'm sorry. Name three things that the current mayor, this current administration has done well.
I wish I could.
Three things you give him credit for.
I wish I could. I don't feel the streets are safe. I know they're not. I think the crime stats show that his promise to keep New Yorkers safe has not been realized. He promised his mental health initiative would align with policing. That didn't work. He promised to build affordable housing. The production has been abysmal. He talked about how he was going to bring technology into city government and 5 new ways to create protocols that would save money, and that didn't happen. He lied about the budget crisis. He blamed the migrants for budgets on Monday, loved them on Tuesday, had no plan for them on Wednesday. I mean, it's been a real shit show, to be honest. And I'm not going to give him credit because this administration has been a colossal failure. And I think the lesson is that the lesson must be for voters. You got to elect someone who has experience, who knows how to tackle these problems. It is easy to make promises. Look, I know it. I've been a politician a long time. It's easy to tell people what they want to hear. But I think voters now are saying to us elected officials or former elected officials, don't overpromise. Show me how you're going to tackle these issues. What in your record, what in your history of service will show us that you will bring this city forward? That is going to be the test in this election. That's the way we should be judging not just the race for mayor, but another office I have some experience with, who's going to be the next controller, who's going to be the future borough presidents. And look, I want to usher in the next generation of leadership. I understand, people like myself, we have an obligation to make sure that the people who follow us also follow us at the highest standard created. That will be my job, to create that high standard.
Best day in government. Highlight.
I think when I think about my kids and the future, I think about our fossil fuel divestment, working with our union brothers and sisters on the pension fund, and that we really did the largest fossil fuel divestment. When you think about climate change and the challenges we face, that we were able to do this was pretty extraordinary. Everyone told me you couldn't do it, can't be done, don't even think about it. And not only did we do that on the pension fund, we also divested from guns, we divested from private prisons, but I was able to do all this because I also understood how to manage the pension fund. So imagine leaving office, getting rid of so many of these bad investments that hurt people, and walk away with a 9% return on investment for our pensioners, the people who serve us in government. It saved the city a tremendous amount of money. It helped our pensioners, and we also helped move the planet to a safer place. That's not a bad day's work, right?
Worst day in government.
I don't view it as a worst day. There are challenging days.
Most challenging day.
Look, I think after COVID, when the government shut down, we had to make some real tough decisions. And I remember sitting with our deputy controller, and we knew that COVID was coming and it had arrived. And I remember, I managed a 750-person staff when I was controller, and I made the decision to shut the office down. I had to protect the pension, right? $200 billion pension fund. I had to protect the workers. And I know that decision, which, by the way, was not popular with the rest of city government, right? The de Blasio administration did not like us getting out in front and sending workers home. And you know what? Thank God we did it. It was a very tough decision. I saved lives, but it was not regarded well in some circles. And look, we've taken on the power, the power structure for a long time, and we keep winning when we are up against the wall. So I hope to continue that.
Scott, thank you so much for the conversation. How'd I do?
You did good. It's good to have you back.
Thank you, pal. Thank you. All the best to you.
All right.